Sec. All good? Oh yeah, the scam of 1992 background music would have been nice. Come, my dear friends. Somehow I always wanted to do that today. Mic's on, right? Is everyone ready though? It's going to be some crazy session, and I've seen that a lot of people are typing Snowman Logistics in the chat. And if you know me well enough, I won't only show you Snowman Logistics. There will be a lot of things that I'll actually show you. So I'll just wait for 2 more minutes. Let's wait for people to join in, and then we'll dive into everything that happens. Okay. Also, do you like the setup? I think Varun and team have done a lot of work with the lighting and the setup and stuff like that. See, I'm not a technical guy, but they've done a lot of work on the background here, which looks quite cool. And if you see that, there's a photo of me and Varun in the background as well from good old days. So okay, let me know when to begin. Okay. Oh yeah, you should tell the people at the Discord server also to come and join. Some good insight. It's going to be fun. So what I'm doing is I'm presenting the presentation here as well. I'm going to look at the chat over here as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask on the way. If I feel something's relevant to the topic, I will take a pause and actually explain it to you guys. But apart from that, I'll keep going through the slides one by one, and you'll see all the slides coming in a small way. Okay. Okay, I think we can begin. So guys, before I begin, I want to be very clear. This video is not a stock recommendation tip. And if tomorrow, whatever the stocks that are being shown right here, it's only for you to connect the dots. So if something goes, if you buy it and if it goes up or down, do not come and blame me tomorrow. This full clear disclaimer that this is not a stock recommendation video. This is a knowledge transferring video. Okay. So I'm going to do this one by one. So if you look at the first slide, we have something called Meta Finance with Shashank Udupa. Now, I'm going to do this every Tuesday, right? So Meta has come up with this thing where we're going to go live every single day, almost every single day, where we come up and keep giving valuable content out to everyone. And Tuesdays is a segment for me where I will come and talk about any kind of finance news that is coming out in the market, be it related to a particular company, a particular IPO, or if it's just general finance news that is coming, right? So for this week, I think what I liked was in the last 5 days, there were 2 announcements of vaccines that came out, one from Pfizer and one from Moderna. So if you look at it, we are going to talk about the global vaccine race that's happening here. So 2 companies, Pfizer and Moderna, came out with their vaccine news. Now, before we go deep into the entire process, right, I want to tell you that COVID happened long ago, November, December, Jan, Feb, March, we hit a lockdown at that point. All the stocks, if you remember, March 24th was the exact date when the stock market crashed completely by 2,000 points. A lot of y'all like me would have taken advantage of the situation and bought it at that time. Other people would have cried because they lost a lot of money. But the important thing here is when you look at the 2 new stocks that are coming, 2 new companies that came out with the vaccine, right? The Pfizer and Moderna, they came out quite recently, and when something like this happens, there's a massive surge in the stock prices for both Sensex and the global stock prices. So we'll get to that in a bit, and we will also find out in today's session what are those key stocks that you need to keep an eye out, because as soon as these vaccine news comes out, there will be a direct impact with a lot of stocks. So moving on to the next slide. First, we'll talk about Pfizer announcement, right? I think this was on November 10th when Pfizer actually came out with their first announcement saying that okay boys, we have come out with the first vaccine after all the trials that were done, and officially announced that, this was Pfizer USA, not India, but they officially announced that the COVID vaccine was here. Now, a few key points on the vaccine itself, right? The vaccine has a 90% efficacy rate, which is almost like an efficiency rate for curing people. Now, the most important thing that if you see that I've put it in yellow over here is that the storage of these vaccines have to be at minus 70 to 75 degrees. So that means you need a lot of cold storage to transport these vaccines to everyone, right? To the last mile delivery. Now, this is very, very important because I'll tell you how the market sways because of this one piece of information. The other two things are quite generic. It is RNA virus genetic code, and there's a 2-dose schedule for it. But the most important thing was the storage at minus 75 degrees. Now, Pfizer came out with this announcement. If you go to the next slide, let's see what happened to the Pfizer stock price when this announcement came out. As soon as this announcement came out on November 10th, Pfizer automatically jumped by 20%, and there's a Pfizer on the Indian stock market as well. So Pfizer jumped directly by 20%, and don't even ask how the Nifty and Sensex and the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq, they all went up because the vaccine announcement came, and everyone was like, cool, the vaccine's here. I think we will take a sigh of relief. Everything will go back to normal very, very soon. Now, coming back to the Pfizer stock market, it went up by 20%. Now, Pfizer is also planning to produce 50 million doses in this year itself. This year itself, matlab, now November and December mein hi 50 million doses will come out, right? And in the next year, they're planning to produce around 1.3 billion doses so that they can distribute it all across the world, okay? Now, a funny take on Pfizer. Now, we all see the news of, Pfizer coming out with the vaccine and everyone is happy and hunky-dory. But there was one small article that most of you all might have missed out, is that the Pfizer CEO at that point, as soon as he announced the, vaccine and the stock price went shooting up by 20%, that guy started offloading his shares. He started selling his shares in the market, right? Now, no one knows why this was. It's kind of shady if you think about it. But he sold a lot of shares, and I think he made around 5.56 million on that day itself. $1 million, not million rupees. So he made 5.56. It was like a nice treat he gave himself that, I made the vaccine, I put it out there, and as soon as the stock price goes up, I'm selling it out. Now, there's two ways to think about this. Did he know that other companies are also close by in the clinical trials and coming out with another vaccine? Or was it just a big payday that he wanted to do? Nobody knows, but this is a fun kind of thing that you need to keep an eye out. Now, the next thing that happened over this weekend, which was 2-3 days ago. Now, when Pfizer's announcement came out, Pfizer's stock went up, Nasdaq, Nifty, everything went up. All the stock market, everything was on a green, and we were all happy. And then we went into the Diwali weekend, right? And we had the Morat trading, which was also in green. Now, over the weekend, we saw another company called Moderna coming out with their own vaccine. And here they said that, boss, Pfizer said they're 90% efficiency rate. We have 94.5% efficiency rate. Now, you might think 4.5% extra efficiency rate is not that big of a deal. But when it comes to vaccines and testing and its human life, that's super, super, super important, right? So if you look at the key points of Moderna, 94.5% rate. Now, the most important thing here, the storage. Now in Pfizer, the storage was minus 70 to 75 degrees, which required compulsory cold storage. But Moderna came out and said that, look boss, we don't need such big cold storage. For us, even at 2 to 8 degrees, we will manage. Now, when something like this happens, when someone says that I don't need minus 70%, I can minus 70 degrees, I can even work out with 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. This means that a lot of different other players come into the sector as well. If it's minus 70 degrees, you only have a few players giving that kind of cold refrigerated sources, right? But when it's 2 to 8, there are different sources who can come and play in this sector. So this is something that is super important. Now, what does India adopt? Does India adopt Pfizer's vaccines? India adopts Moderna's vaccines? Or does India adopt both? We have no idea, but we will come to know very soon. Also, a funny take is that Moderna's vaccine is almost double the price of Pfizer's vaccine cost, right? This is a tentative cost, it's not the final cost. But Moderna is charging 2 times more than the Pfizer itself. So we will have to look at it. But if you look at the funny thing over there, I don't know if you guys saw this video that came out recently. It's been circulating on WhatsApp all around. The Sputnik 5, the Russian vaccine that came out by Russian investment fund, that's actually launched and come back into India. There was a big parcel with Dr. Reddy's name on it, and they've actually landed in India. But Sputnik only has 92% efficiency rate, not 94.5. Now, there are a lot of players who are coming out with different kind of vaccines. You will see more players coming out with different kind of vaccines once they finish the clinical trials. But it all depends on which country will adopt which vaccine. whether a country takes all the different type of vaccine and tests it out with their own audience, or will they just take one or two people depending on what rate they get it at. So this will be a funny thing to see in the future. Now let's look at how the entire vaccine infrastructure works, right? Now if you look at the vaccine from start to end, okay, I call it end to end because I wanted to see from the start to end. The first thing that we always wanted was the vaccine creation. Who comes out with the vaccine? For example, now we have Pfizer and Moderna coming out with their own vaccine. Great, right? We have more companies coming out with their own vaccine as well. Sputnik came out as well. After the vaccine is created, the vaccine is created by a company in US. Now, how do you manufacture these vaccines? There are a lot of vaccines that have to be created for the entire world. This is not something that is only for US or only for India. Now, a single manufacturing unit obviously cannot make this for the entire world. So usually what happens is companies either pharma companies tie up with localized manufacturing companies like say Dr. Reddy or Cipla or whatever. They tie up with these companies in each country and then they make the vaccine, and then obviously they have a profit sharing agreement. Or there are other companies, for example, if you look at Moderna, they tied up with a German company. I'm not sure about the name, but they tied up with a German company which was able to produce around 1 billion doses of this vaccine. So it depends on how they take the route, right? Either they can give it to one solo manufacturer and tell them, boss, create everything because German manufacturing, or they can say, I will go into each country, tie up with the best pharma company there and tell them to manufacture it in-house. Okay, now we've got the vaccine, we've finished the manufacturing. Now, after all these doses are ready, how does it reach people like me and everyone else, right? Because I have to get vaccinated on this aspect. This is very important because here logistics plays a big role, and in a country like India where the logistics has to be given to each village, it's not only for the cities and metro cities, it has to go to each village and every citizen has to get vaccinated. This is called last mile delivery, like till the end of the entire population, right? Now if the storage capacity has to be at minus 70 degrees, imagine how difficult it is to put so many vials of vaccine inside a truck, keep it at minus 75 degrees, safely transport it to different locations and outposts, and then have people coming there and actually getting vaccinated. So when Pfizer came out of the minus 70 degrees, that was a very difficult challenge to overcome. And there was only one company in India that was actually doing that, but I'll get to that later. But with the new Moderna vaccine that came out with 2 to 8 degrees, now different refrigerator companies can come which are not minus 70 degrees, but say for Gati and Blue Dart, they can all come out with different solutions just for this, because think about how big this market is. Last mile delivery to give vaccines to the entire Indian population, that's a lot of revenues in someone's pocket, right? So now we've seen how the end-to-end flow works. Now, the most important slide, this is why you guys are here. This is called connecting the dots. Now we've understood how the world works. We've understood how the vaccine in US, let's go even further back, right? We've understood how a small lab in China created the coronavirus, which gave such a big impact to the entire world. All the stock prices went down, everything went down. Now we've come back to a circle where we've finally found a cure. Right? Now, once we know that a cure has come out, the vaccines have started coming out, right? We don't know whether it's really good or really bad, but time will say. But we know for a fact that the vaccines have started coming out. That means we're on the road to recovery. Now, if these vaccines have started coming out, let's start tracking which stocks can actually go up and go down, or which stocks have an advantage with the vaccine coming out. Because we've seen that during the coronavirus period, if you track the market, you would have seen that the pharma stocks had a very good rally. They went up really fast. Obviously because that was the only sector that was trending during the coronavirus pandemic. But if you look at all the construction stocks, the real estate stock, the cement, airline industry, travel industry, all these stocks were completely down, right? Because obviously there's no one going out, this coronavirus going on, pandemic, etc. But since we know all the information, let's see how we can connect the dots. First thing, you should understand that as soon as the news came out, Sensex, right? Obviously, after the Morat trading, Diwali, we were all going up. Sensex reached an all-time high, etc. But as soon as the news came out over the weekend, we all knew for a fact that today Sensex would go up, and it did go up, right? And Sensex had reached an all-time high only because of the vaccine hopes that have come up in the market. Now, because of this, all the stocks have gone up, including Nasdaq. Even the global indices. If you look at all the global indices, everything will go up because now it gives a sigh of relief to people that business will go back to normal and no other company might go bankrupt because of this. Okay, so Sensex went up. I think it hit around 44,000, which is, by the way, the highest that Sensex has gone. Now, let's look at some shares in the US, because I'm not going to focus only on India. I'm going to teach you how to connect the dots all over the world. So if you go to the next slide, we will see that we'll go to the slide called Zoom USA. Now, you all remember, might have used Zoom in the entire lockdown. Zoom became like the most normal thing for webinars, for meetings, for everything, right? As soon as coronavirus pandemic hit, we all remember how Zoom prices soared by 600, 700% in a day. And I remember the founder became a billionaire in a few days, right? Now, that happened because of the COVID. Now the vaccine comes out. What do you think is going to happen to the stock price of Zoom? And no one would have connected these dots that, okay, are we still going to use Zoom after the pandemic or not? So this is something that you guys need to focus on. Don't just look at stocks in India or companies in India. Try to connect it from a global perspective, because if you do that, you will understand how Indian markets work as well. So earlier this year in April, we saw that Zoom had around 10 million daily users in December. That's it, right? As soon as the coronavirus pandemic hit, the app went from 10 million daily users to 200 million daily users by March itself. I don't even know what the current numbers are by November, but in March they reached 200 million users. But as soon as the vaccine announcement came out, instantly Zoom shares started falling by 15%. Now you would say, oh my God, that is really bad that Zoom, just fell by 15%, lost to so many people. But it's actually not a loss, because when the COVID announcement came out earlier on in March, Zoom price went up by 680%, right? And now if it's fallen by 15%, even if it goes down by 100% more, it doesn't matter, because the investors have made their money that, when they had invested in Zoom. So funny thing to look out how a video conferencing app gets affected by a vaccine. Okay, if you go to the next slide, this is something that you guys all know. Make My Trip is apparently it's actually a company listed in the States. It's not listed in India. It's a company listed in NASDAQ, right? And it's apparently one of the biggest companies that are listed in NASDAQ. As soon as the coronavirus vaccine came out, Make My Trip shares started going up. All the articles with the CEO posing in front of a flight or a balloon, I'm not sure what that is, but all that has come out instantly. And the reason being, what people are predicting now, that since the vaccine has come out, the travel industry, including the housing, hospitality and the air aviation is all going to come back to normal. And Indian Aviation Minister also put out an article saying that he is hopeful that the air travel will go back to pre-COVID levels in India by early January. Now, I'm not quite sure if that is true. That can only be possible if all the vaccines are delivered to every individual out there. But you will see a slower rise in the people traveling by air now. As soon as they start getting vaccinated day in, day out, you will see that air travel will go back to normal. And eventually, hopefully by the end of next year, we will be completely back to normal, going back to our offices and getting stuck in traffic on a day-to-day basis. So welcome to the life like how you had it before. But funny thing to see how Moderna and Pfizer news has given Make My Trip a share price jump. So that is very important to look at. Now, we come to the next slide, which obviously all of you have been putting it in the chat quite often, is Snowman Logistics, right? Now, the reason why a lot of people were talking about Snowman Logistics is because two things. One, the CEO was very smart. As soon as Pfizer came out with their announcement, Pfizer has not made any tie-up with Snowman, by the way, till now, nothing officially. But as soon as Pfizer said, we have released a vaccine and we need minus 70 degrees temperature, right? The CEO of Snowman came out immediately online. He even came on the news channels and said, I am the only logistics provider in India who can deliver vaccines at minus 70 degrees, right? Now, is that a genius move or what? I have no clue. But because of that, the stock price today has gone up by 10%. Yesterday, it was up by 14%. So if you look at the chart, it's just a 5-day chart that I've put on there. But you will see that it has gone up from 40 rupees on November 12th to around 60 rupees right now, which is a massive jump. Okay, you would have made a lot of money if that happened. But think about it in this way, right? There's no official announcement yet. But Snowman Logistics said there's no one in India and I'm the only one who can do this. But what I thought was today, as soon as Moderna's news came out, that they said that we don't require minus 70 degrees. Would it be safe to assume that then the Snowman Logistics shares would obviously go down because now they don't need that kind of temperature, and maybe other people also don't need that kind of temperature? Funny enough, it didn't go down, it went up by another 10% today. Right, so that's why I say you can never ever predict the stock market, how the consumer sentiments are moving, but you do your research and understand how this works. Because if India does get Pfizer vaccines in India, then they have to use Snowman Logistics. But I don't think Snowman Logistics will be the only company, because if I'm a logistics company like Gati or TCI and I know that Pfizer is coming in, I will definitely just buy refrigerator trucks and start my last mile delivery again, even to take a small portion of revenue from Snowman Logistics itself. But it's a funny thing how, again, of vaccine announcement, impacts, if you go right below, impacts a logistics company based out of Bangalore, right? So just see how the trend works from China to US to Bangalore, right? Now, if you go to the next slide, and I keep telling you guys, don't just look at one thing, don't just look at say for example Snowman Logistics, which is a logistics company, just because the news came out, you guys are focusing on Snowman Logistics. But think about this from a different perspective. There are a lot of different stocks that actually benefit from the vaccine announcement. So if you go to the next slide, I will show you this, right? Now, quite obvious, hospitality industry has to go up. Now, as soon as the coronavirus pandemic vaccines will come out, everything will go back to normal. So there are two companies in India which are called Indian Hotels, okay, and Lemon Tree. Both of them shot up in the last 5 days and started going up 4%, 7%. Because obviously when the pandemic is over, staying goes back to normal. And even ITC, for example, which owns the Taj properties, they'll all start going back up very soon. So if you think there's another kind of hospitality sector that has not already gone up like the way this is going up, that is something that is good to track right now. But think about it from this perspective. All these companies have gone to an all-time low because of the pandemic. Their revenues are really bad. And as soon as this is done, you will see that they will slowly start going up again back to pre-COVID times. So that is not going to happen in a day or two. It's gone up right now, but doesn't mean it will go up, every other day. You will see that slowly after every quarter when the results are announced, you will see that these stocks go back to pre-COVID levels. Hopefully, I'm assuming by March quarter, most of the stocks should come back to its original levels. Now, this is the Indian hotel. There's one more sector which we all track closely, especially in my Pro League. We track this sector very closely because we knew for a fact as soon as coronavirus hit, this sector took a massive hit, and that was the airline sector. Now, if you remember when COVID happened, Warren Buffett was the first guy to actually go and dump all his airline stocks at that point, He sold each and every airline stock that he had because he told at that point, and I clearly remember, he said that I'm going to sell all the stocks right now and I will buy it back once it actually starts recovering again. Because no one knows how the airline stocks would survive this, because they're a very high capex as in capital expenditure. You have to put a lot of money to run that business. So they were a very high capex business, right? But as soon as this happened, you will see that not only India, but even Asia Pacific, all the stocks in Singapore, Malaysia, China, Hong Kong, all these, different kind of countries, all their airline stocks started going up. Because what happens is, if the vaccine's actually done, if the vaccine's created, forget domestic travel, you will see international travel coming back to its normal places, right? And you can now start going back to your vacations and planning your vacations again. So airline stocks suddenly saw a jump. If you look at SpiceJet today itself, SpiceJet went up by around 7% just today. And in the last, I think, 5 days, it's gone up much more than that, right? So it's very interesting, and it's very nice to look at how macroeconomic plays affect India. And a lot of us, when we look at a news article, we get this notification on Economic Times or everything else. We get a notification saying, hey, a new vaccine has come out, Moderna has come out, Pfizer has come out. None of us actually click on that, go into it and read it. This is a very big mistake a lot of us do. We look at the notification headline saying the vaccines come out and we're very happy about it. But if you actually went inside, you would see that Moderna has different storage capacity, whereas Pfizer has different storage capacity. And after that, you need to start using your curious side of your mind by saying, okay, if the vaccines come out, who else is going to benefit? So if you thought about this over the weekend, when Moderna's vaccine came out, if you thought about which sector would go up today, and the sectors that I've showed you today is not something that you wouldn't have figured out by yourself. It is quite obvious that the hospitality industry would go up. It is quite obvious that the airline stocks would jump, the cement stocks would jump, all the construction stocks would jump. It is quite obvious, right? So if you could connect the dots over the weekend, the long weekend that we had for Diwali, instead of eating that extra laddu, you could have actually figured out how to make a lot of money today. Okay, now don't send me laddus and don't quote me on that laddu, but you would have actually made a lot of money. And if you look at SpiceJet, if you look at the other stocks, you would have easily made 10 to 15% today, right? So it's all about connecting the dots. And yeah, if you go to the last slide, I've put it in very big bold letters saying it's all about connecting the dots. The person who connects these dots actually win. And I think this is what we do very closely in the Pro League, because I know a lot of my students in the Pro League connect the dots a lot. And even on the Discord channel, I saw a lot of people connecting the dots as well. And it's also become like a small trend where people keep saying connect the dots, connect the dots. So that's a great thing. So all I say is keep connecting the dots. I'm looking at all the comments, but nothing exciting. So all I say is keep connecting the dots, and every Tuesday I'll come and do something very similar to this, either on an industry or on a particular IPO or on a particular stock, right? If there is nothing apart from that, I will still come and give you some financial gyan. Don't worry about that. Okay, so I hope this session helped. It was I kept it very short and brief, but I hope this session helped. It's going to be on YouTube for forever, I think. So have fun and have a great day. Okay. Yeah, and I'm gonna do one shameless plug like all the other guys do on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. First time I've done that, it feels very weird. Okay, see you guys. Thank you. Bye.